There's one topic that gets overlooked in singing training a lot, and it's a tool or coordination many singers never even encounter in their training. In fact, so many people are trying to learn how to control their voices or experience what they may call command over their singing that this one thing can't even be uncovered. I'm talking about laryngeal freedom, and it may be a missing key that will unlock all kinds of vocal possibility for you. Hey there, if you're new here, my name's Dan Calloway. I teach musical theater voice and vocal pedagogy at Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. More than 25 years kicking around on equity stages and more than 15 years helping singers get to work on Broadway, national tours, regionally and around the world. And I am very glad you are here with me today. So why is laryngeal freedom, the flexibility and relative looseness of the structures of your larynx while singing, why is this so important? Well, number one, understanding the actual function of the larynx and its component structures is going to serve you tremendously, just because when you understand what's going on under the hood, you're much more able to troubleshoot any issues that come up. So when my car needs repair, I've got to take it to an expert. And sometimes that's true of our voice. But if I see coolant or oil needs to be topped up or tires need more air, I can take care of that myself. So that's because I understand the basic function of my car's engine. Same with singing. If you're experiencing strain, difficulty, sounds that are unsustainable or not repeatable, something is causing you to tax your laryngeal function more than you need to be. Which brings us to the second why, longevity, and the domino effects of muscular tension. When we try to locally control this mechanism by exerting physical effort around the laryngeal area, we often make phonation more labored. We can also set off a cascade of muscular tensions that inhibit other parts of our singing, inhaling, articulation, and general alignment are just a few areas where tensions can create other tensions. Lack of laryngeal freedom also robs you of satisfaction as a singer and also withholds a measure of your own essence from the listener. When there are unnecessary muscular engagements going on, you are binding up muscular tissue that becomes more dense and actually muffles vibratory energy. When these muscles can release, your communicative flow gets unleashed, and that is a terrific feeling. It can be tricky to learn because many folks experience it as a giving over of the illusion of control. But you're actually learning to control the release of muscles so you can let your voice and the essence, the only you there is, the essence of you, flow through. And that is a very special thing. Understanding how laryngeal freedom works also gives you a basic understanding of how you can leverage physiology and acoustics to your advantage. So just like gravity, the laws of physics are the laws of physics, and we are not able to break them. At least I have not found out how to break them myself. If you find out, then let me know. But once we understand how they work, we can set up shapes in the vocal tract and impulses from the breathing mechanisms and muscles that we know will support certain sounds and trust the body to take care of the result. So those are a few of the whys, but how can you begin to experience the benefits of laryngeal freedom yourself? I will tell you. But first, it's important to understand some basics of structure so you can see why the larynx works the way it does. The larynx is a hanging structure, and it's suspended from the hyoid bone. It's the only structure in your body that is like this, a mechanism that's suspended by a membrane and ligaments. Of course, there are muscles attaching to the larynx from above and beneath that can move it either up or down. But this information, that the larynx hangs from the hyoid bone, is very useful in your singing technique. Understanding this gives you the information you need in order to start letting your breath management and laryngeal function cooperate. And I'm going to tell you how that works right now. Your laryngeal response and flexibility comes from two directions. So number one, your larynx, when the folds are closed and vibrating, responds to the air pressure being provided by your exhale muscles from your lungs. Number two, your laryngeal function is also affected by acoustic and air pressure factors created by the shaping of your vocal tract. So that is the area from your larynx to the opening of your mouth, the vocal tract, or your nose, depending on which way the air is flowing. The way you shape the elements from your larynx to the opening of your mouth have a powerful retroactive effect on registration, intonation, and all manner of vocal coloring. In this video, we are going to talk about way number one, your breath impulse. We will get to tract shaping in the next video. So let's start out by making some silly sounds together. Here you go. So let's make these sounds. Here's sound number one. All right. Ready? Let's do that again. All right. So that's an impulse from my belly, causing my larynx to move. Or this one. Mamma mia. Ready? Mamma mia. That one. So again, the torso is shaking, causing air impulses to affect my larynx. Mamma mia. Or this might sound like a familiar form of vibrato from some very famous musical theater artists. Are you ready? All right. That one. Okay. That might sound a little familiar. All right. So all of those sounds, all three of those sounds come from an intense muscular impulse from the abdominal family. So you can hear the intense shift in acoustic when my abdominals and probably my ribs suddenly engage, thus sending more breath pressure up underneath my folds. So, or mamma mia, or okay, so those are all different things. And I mean, you can play with all kinds of sounds and ways that breath impulse affects the laryngeal behavior. Silly exercises like this are terrific ways to give your body evidence for how the breath impulse affects laryngeal function. This makes sense because when you exhale, muscles of expiration move air up and out of your lungs, and this air encounters your closed folds, or your glottis, we call it. If you picture a spirometer, the device they often use in the hospital to check your breath function after you've had anesthesia, it is the same principle. The strength of your exhale propels the little ball higher in the tube. So your breath encountering vibrating vocal folds has the same encounter with your larynx. There is air pressure underneath the larynx. We often call that subglottal pressure, underneath the glottal or underneath the glottis. Subglottal pressure. If you experience vocal fatigue or feel like you make sounds that aren't what you'd call sustainable, you may be hitting your larynx with way more breath energy than you need for the vocal task you are accomplishing. Well-meaning teachers tell us to support. So like most humans, we assume more is more. So we contract our abdominals and ribs and send all kinds of air up that the extrinsic and intrinsic muscles of our larynx then have to manage while your folds vibrate. You can feel and hear the muscular management that has to come on board to handle this amount of pressure. You can even hear the difference in this in someone's speaking voice. So if I saw you at a party and I said, "Hey, how's it going? You just took that trip, right? How was that?" Or, "Hey, are you starting that new job soon?" So just the nature of me being curious and interested in you affects my breath flow and vibratory pattern. You can feel an invitation to tell me things in my voice, like, "Hey, how did that go?" There's an openness to my vocal flow. But say if I see you at this party and I'm all like, hey, how's it going? Hey, did you know I'm taking an extended trip to Bali? Yeah, I won it because I was one of the top sales generators last quarter and I got the trip along with a juicy bonus. Yeah, they're probably going to move me up to a manager of managers in the next few months. Hey, you look like you could use some of our mushroom acai neutrogenesis epigenetic transformational blend. Here, scan this QR code and I'll go through our catalog with you. All right, so you can feel the energy of the intent is clear. I even became completely uncomfortable kind of halfway through that spiel. And my body responds according to identity and intention here. So party person number one, a friend, I want to know how it's going. How was the trip? How's the new job? Party person number two, I have very much an agenda. I'm presenting my accomplishments to you. So two very different ego identities and intentions for communicating. So asking about your trip and job, my airflow is gentler. My vibratory pattern is more 50-50. You can even feel energetically there's more welcome in my sound. And so when I'm selling you on how successful I am and the fact that you need to buy some special powders, my muscles engaged more because I'm forcing an agenda on you. And you can feel that in the sound of my exhale muscles exerting harder and therefore my vocal fold vibrations being more robust. So like, hey, how's it going? It's good to see you. Or like, did I tell you about that thing? You can feel the force in the vocal energy on that. And this happens with singing all the time when we think we need to get sound across or project our voices. We end up using all this breath energy and blasting the unsuspecting hearer. So this is why it's important to get intimately connected with your breath's effect on your larynx. And when you have an experiential understanding of it, your body will know the amount of air to send for the particular phrase you're singing, and your voice will share a balanced, welcoming vibration. Another way to play with the breath to larynx relationship is through animal sounds. So I'll explain. I will start with a kitty cat. So I want you to imagine you're a kitty. You're lounging in the sunshine when you hear your human moving toward the kitchen. A cabinet door opens and some other rattling around. There's a little pop crack sound. Is that a can of wet food? No. Your nose immediately tells you that it's one thing and one thing only: tuna. Your human is doing something with tuna. Number one, why were you not consulted first? And number two, you need to get first tastes clearly. So you leave your sunny perch in the bay window and make your way to the scene of delicious feline neglect, and the smell becomes even more intense. What is your human doing? Is that mayonnaise? Chopped celery? They're about to dump that can of perfectly good albacore into a bowl containing sweet relish. You feel the hunger stir in your belly. It mixes with the indignation of being offered no tuna. You stare up at your human and you say, like that. So you go try that, okay? Feel the kitty belly, anger and hunger. And she goes, it's through my nose. So what has happened there? Your body felt a very definite impulse, hunger, and low-grade seafood rage, and your exhale muscles responded. Your abdominals and ribs contracted, which moved air through your vocal folds. So not only did your body produce an impulse of air, but that air itself is what caused your kitty vocal folds to vibrate, because when air reaches a certain velocity passing through your vocal folds, it decreases air pressure between them and therefore brings the two bodies together. Let me show you my two pieces of paper. It's always good to be reminded of this principle. So if I have these two pieces of paper and I blow through them, the moving air brings the two pieces of paper together. So see that? So moving air through your vocal folds brings them together. The air pressure decreases, therefore bringing the two bodies together. When you're a cat, you're not thinking, I will now approximate my folds and then execute a coordinated onset of sound. No, there is a breath impulse. It hits your larynx and you're meowing your tuna protest. So take a moment to feel that. It's just the breath impulse. And if your folds are currently believing they're a cat, then they'll be in feline registration. The sound will just happen. Seriously, so I'm a kitty and I'm just gonna go. Yeah. So the breath is bringing those folds together. And so that is the magic of understanding your breath's relationship and effect on your folds and the larynx as a whole. And then you can try out different kitty scenarios. There's back off. I don't want you to scratch behind my ears, kitty. So that's more like. And then there's this one. This is one we all know this one. And we know that means get the kitty to the tile floor quick, off the carpet. So, and notice on the back off and the hairball, both of those registrations were in feline mode 1, chest. So, all right, so that's a cat. What if you're a dog, though? So you're relaxing on the couch, and a delivery driver leaves a package at the door, rings the doorbell. So what does your doggy body do? So let's say, I'll say I'm a small breed, and my name is Taco. I'm a small breed, my name's Taco. All right, and I hear... So the same principle is happening here. The impulse is an abrupt movement of my abdominal muscles and ribs, and a burst of air shoots through my previously open folds. The quickly moving air sucks my folds together into vibration and bounces my larynx high into this abrupt communication. So I hear the... So same if I'm a large breed. So just change the identity, setting of the folds. I'll hear the doorbell ring or the door knock. So yeah, I just have this impulsive air. So if you're around a dog or a cat, watch their body when they bark or meow, and you'll see that torso contraction in the abdominals and the ribs as it moves, quickly moving air through the folds and causes that vibration. The larynx is being affected by a breath impulse. That is the impetus for that sound. Cats and dogs aren't thinking about bringing their vocal folds together. They're communicating a tuna oversight or impending territorial invasion, and their bodies instinctively respond. So the breath impulse moves to the larynx, closes the folds into vibration, and makes a meow or a bark depending on the animal's physiology and identity. So, how do you apply this understanding to your singing? Playing with these tools will give you really fun evidence of how the mechanism works, and you'll then be able to apply this embodied knowledge into your singing. Here's how. I like to use the chorus from Peter Gabriel's song, The Book of Love, for a vocal exercise. And that's actually your favorite choruses of songs. Simple choruses are great vocal exercises. You can take little snippets of them and move them all around, just as a fun way to practice. That's not just ahs and oohs and things that seem arbitrary, okay? So if I sing this, knowing that my breath buoys my larynx up and also causes my folds to close, I can cooperate with this physiological reality. So the phrase I think sounds like, it goes, and I love it when you read to me. That's the first chorus. So go ahead, conceive of the phrase, ask your body, how much air do I need for this? Your body will give you an answer. Then ask, how much support do I need for this phrase? Your body will also give you a suggestion. So now give that a try. How much air? How much support? Knowing your breath impulse affects your larynx and vibration in an intimate way. And then we'll give it a sing. How much breath? How much support? And I love it when you read to me. So then, what if I gave it more air than it needs? What if I'm like, someone really told me to support, I'm gonna really support, okay? All right, I'm gonna try to do this authentically. Take a big breath, a lot of support. And I love it when you read to me. So it made it through. It felt a little more labored to me. It might not have sounded that much different, but I could feel more of a squeeze from my ribs, a little bit more pressure on the folds. So now, I mean, like an extreme version, if you're really hitting it like, and I, you might hear sometimes people really squeezing down on things like that. And in pedagogical circles, we would call that hyperfunctional phonation, or when you take pedagogy class, hyperfunctional phonation. And if you're pummeling your larynx with hard working support, it'll be hard to even determine chicken or egg anymore. You can become accustomed to a ton of support and therefore a ton of muscular involvement with phonation. So return to the silly, mamma mia, or just, even like, just playing with different silly sounds where abrupt torso movements have an effect on the folds. I mean, the sky's really the limit on that. So any abrupt change in your abdominal and rib muscles, and notice how it affects the larynx and phonation. So more and more evidence of how the breath and larynx collaborate. Be a cat, be a dog, any noise-making animal you wish, and notice that the deep abdominal impulse causes the folds to vibrate and for the sound to happen. When you download this truth, your singing will change and your voice will be able to balance and, most importantly, welcome people in, because you won't be energetically pushing folks away by over muscling and literally pushing your voice out. You'll have balance and ease, and that will also welcome folks inside. I think about, if you've seen the movie version of Wicked, you can actually really hear the difference in some of the singers. Some of the actors who've had more singing experience and are used to having this flow of air move through, you can feel it sort of as an energetic whole moving through them. Whereas some of the actors who make their living and most of their work as speaking storytellers, you can hear more of sort of like a local laryngeal speech idea in the sound. So if you watch the movie again, keep an ear out for that, where you can hear sort of, with some singers, you can have a sense of the voice coming through the larynx, and with other singers, more of an idea of the voice coming from the larynx. It's that distinction. So you'll hear that when you listen to all kinds of singers. But Wicked, there's some interesting examples within the movie if you're listening out. And I do have a laryngeal freedom exercise series you can grab if you haven't already. That link is in the description, and if you'd like to understand more about how the breath mechanism itself works, I made this video for you with a comprehensive description of how your muscles of inspiration and expiration work and the different kinds of support we use for different styles. So in the next video, I'll talk about how your vocal tract shaping affects registration and the behavior of your larynx. So that's a retro effect going back from acoustic shapes. So stay tuned for that. And most importantly, please remember there is only one you, and somebody would love to hear the story only you can sing. So love much. Now go sing, or meow, or oh, oh.